Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we will talk about designing a for loop and common problems with setting up incrementing values. So say that we want to do some process. We want to ask for user input 5 times. We then want to generate a sum of input values. And then we want to display that back to user. Well, let's see here. If we want to do that, we should set up a loop. And we can do that. Let's do it with a for loop. So say we need to have some variable. We're going to set it to an initial value of 0. And we're going to have some x variable, which we're going to set to 0 as well, just for good practice, so we know what it starts with. And we're also going to set up a for loop. And we need to have some counter, so let's set up a count. Let's set it equal to 1, because we want to have 5 values, so we're going to start with 1. And we're going to go to less than or equal to 5 values, and we're going to increase count by 1 every loop iteration. So let's see what we should do. Well, the first thing we should do is we should ask for user input. If we ask for user input inside of the loop body, well, that's going to be asked every single time that we enter a number. So let's go ahead and just print it once to the user. And we know that we want to print the sum after this finishes, so let's go ahead and say that sum is the following, whatever gets stored into the sum variable. And now let's deal with the inside of our for loop, because we know that we've set up count to go from 1 to 5, so that's going to be 5 values. And let's go ahead and ask for that information. So we're going to use the cin command, store that information into the variable x, and then we're going to add to the sum variable by adding x every time. So we're going to generate some larger number every time. Sum is going to increase by the value of x every loop. And now I think we've got everything set up. It looks like we've covered everything. We've declared our variables, we've asked the user for input, we have some clear start and end position for our incremental value. We know it's going by a value of 1 every time. We ask for the user input, we store the user input and keep adding it to sum, and then we're going to print that information back to the user. So I think we've got it at a place where we can compile it. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and compile and see what we get. Input 5 values. Okay, so let's go ahead and input 5 values. And you can see that we get the correct sum coming out, so everything's working correctly. But now say we want to start our counter at 0 instead of at 1. Well, if we start our counter at 0 and we go to 5, we've suddenly now added an additional input. So if we run this again, notice that if we start this position at 0, we can now enter an additional value and the sum will be different. So if we wanted to change this so that it would only enter 5 values, we could reduce this by 1 by saying that it is always less than 5. So we're going from a position of 0 to a position of 4, so we're offset by 1. But we're still covering 5 values. 0 through 4 is still 5 values. So if we run this again, notice that we can enter 5 values and then get our sum. When dealing with this kind of input, it's really important to note that in C++, a lot of things start at 0. Positions in strings and arrays start at 0. So you might want to think about setting things up in this way in the future. As long as you know the number of entries that you want to traverse or you want to ask for, you can set it at 0 and always remember that it will be one less than the amount that you're actually going to. So the terminating condition is always n minus 1 numbers. And with that, I think we've covered everything for this video. Thanks for watching and happy coding!